So everybody knows Gun Owners Radio, we are nonpartisan. We don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, decline to state. We don't care. Libertarian, whatever. We just want you to respect our Second Amendment rights. But there is something happening in the world today. There is a cultural, political issue that we want to talk a lot more about, and we're not going to stop. It's not just going to be, something we touch on and then move on. I believe it's important enough for us to talk about it, call it out, and address it as much as we possibly can, probably every week for the foreseeable future. And the reality is it's so common and it happens with such frequency that there is an example of it to call out every single week. So that's what we're going to continue to do. It's political violence from the left. Now, that's a broad term. The left, the political left. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to qualify it, but it's definitely the left side of the political spectrum that in this moment in history is far more comfortable with political violence, far more comfortable with using violence to achieve a political end. They're far more comfortable with fostering an environment to where hyperbole and extremism leads to people thinking it's okay to commit violence. So I wanted to show you yet another example from the left. And again, all political violence is bad. It goes without saying. It just bugs me that people have to stop and say all political violence is bad. Of course, it comes from the right is up. Blah, 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 blah. Stop it. The reality is right now, the left is a huge problem. It's not equal. It's not equal in scope. It's not equal in severity. The left, the political left, is committing the political violence, and they're the ones that need to stop. So, of course, we're against all violence. Of course, we're against all political violence. Of course, we're against violence that happens on the right. But the reality is the right isn't creating an entire universe or an environment where they're encouraging and fostering violence. That's the left. So, wanted to show you an article. It's from The Hill. Pressure grows on Virginia Democratic candidate to quit after violent text messages. Violent text messages. Okay, this person's running for in Virginia is running for the Attorney General position. The Attorney General, that's the person that prosecutes, goes after criminals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's also, the Democratic Party candidate is a guy who is sending violent text messages about a political opponent. Now, let's get into it a little bit. Pressure is mounting on Virginia Democratic Attorney General nominee Jay Jones to drop out of the race following leaked text messages in which he openly talks about violence directed towards former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert, who is a Republican. A chorus of Republicans in and out of Virginia are calling on Jones to drop out, including President Trump and Vice President Vance. The Republican gubernatorial nominee, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, quickly jumped on the news, rolling out an ad tying her opponent, former Rep. Abigail Spanberger, who's a Democrat in Virginia, to Jones. Jones' opponent, incumbent Attorney General Jason Miara, I'm not going to be able to say that, Miaras, who's a Republican, released his own ad Monday asking for voters if they could trust Jones to protect their children. That's a key part, to protect their children. We'll talk about why in just a minute. Spanberger has distanced herself from the comments, saying in a statement that she conveyed her disgust to Jones over the texts, but she's likely to face growing pressure over the development as Republicans use the story to attack her and other Democrats, arguing she isn't going far enough by not calling on him to drop out. So this isn't getting a whole lot of press. It's getting press and people are interested in it, but they're really not spending a whole lot of time on it. The mainstream media folks are just not talking about this much at all. Quote, in October, there's not a lot of things that can actually cut through. This is one of them, both for the AG race and then up the ballot and down the ballot, said Zach Rode, a Virginia-based Republican strategist who formerly worked with Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's Spirit of Virginia PAC. This is going to motivate a whole lot of infrequent voters. In other words, people who don't normally vote, they're going to say, hey, I got to get out there and vote based on this alone. And it absolutely will persuade people to second guess, like actual people, their priors. They very well may consider split ticket or changing where they're going to vote. Let's see, the messages which were sent in 2022, so not that long ago, were first reported by National Review and later published by the Republican Attorneys General Association. Here's the quote. Three people, 2 bullets, Jones wrote in a text to House Delegate Kerry Conyer, a Republican, about Gilbert. So it wasn't that long ago. It was to another, it wasn't like it was even to like, his spouse or something like that. It was to another elected official. Quote, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot, Jones wrote. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. That's what the text actually said. Quote, spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time, Jones told this other elected official. Conyer, in response, told Jones, who at the time did not hold an elected office, to stop. National Review also reported that in a follow-up conversation with Conyer, Jones suggested he wished Gilbert's wife could see her children die so her husband would reconsider his political views on gun violence.
Wow.
So here's the thing. So like I said, hey, can you trust this person with your kids' safety? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I know that all of us have had our emotions run away with us when we talk about politics. I know that all of us have a text out there that we're not proud of or have made a statement that, certainly isn't our best foot forward. But this is so vile and so specific, and so hypocritical on the other hand. I mean, he's basically saying, I hope these people get shot because they support gun rights. I hope gun violence happens to them because they won't ban guns. This is, and then by the way, comparing a political opponent to Pol Pot, Hitler and Pol Pot, how did we solve the problem of Hitler? Did we go to Hitler and convince Hitler to change his mind? No. It was enormous violence that got rid of Hitler and Pol Pot. And so when you take somebody and equate him or her to such a, heinous, horrible, dictator, leader, then you're basically saying, hey, whatever happened to them, it's okay to happen to this other person as well. That's what we mean by not only hyperbole, by comparing this, local legislator to Hitler, is extreme hyperbole and ridiculous extremism. But you're also you're fostering an environment where political violence can thrive. This is what we're talking about. They aren't simply disagreeing on a budget or simply disagreeing on, hey, we should do this rather than that, or, I think we should name a park after this person rather than that person. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is somebody who's saying, hey, this person is a murderous dictator, and I hope that they die. I hope that they get killed.
Not only them, but their children.
Not only them, but their children.
Right.
There's something deeply sick about this. I think, and I say, hey, there's a text out there that from all of us that we're not so proud of,
or a meme that's or
meme or something.
Right.
It's not that.
This is a whole different level.
It's not this. This is a whole different level.
Right.
This is a whole very specific, like fantasy, and this is what we're talking about, and it's not okay. And the fact that people aren't coming out in opposition to this person stronger. And when I say people, I'm talking about the Democratic Party. That they're not coming out and saying, hey, this person needs to go. This person needs to get out of public service and go flip burgers. Go do something that isn't anywhere near power. The fact that they're more concerned with either their race or making sure a D ends up in office rather than what they should be concerned about, which is a person who's saying horrific, horrible things beyond, the average, frustration with politics. The fact that all this is happening, they have to be voted out. They have to be confronted, and they have to be told this is not okay. And, the voters have to respond in Virginia. And I think, for the most part, Virginia has fairly reasonable voters.
Right.
So I'd be more worried in California. But in Virginia, I think you guys have a job to do. And, even if you do live in California or you don't live in Virginia, there's some emails and some phone calls you can make.
And people, I imagine you might know people that are in Virginia, even if you're not. So do some talking, inform them, educate them.
And most of all, when you're talking to your city council candidate or your supervisor or your mayor, or you're talking to somebody about politics, make clear that, hey, this Virginia Democratic Attorney General nominee, Jay Jones, and the things that he said and the way that he said them is not okay. It's not okay. So, any other thoughts?
I just ditto all the things that you've stated. And I will say, when I first saw the headline, I thought, is this hyperbole? And then I got into it and I read it, and I was honestly a little blown away. Yeah. It's very shocking. Now, one thing I was curious, we're not in Virginia, so I don't know. Is it that they're being silent, hoping that this won't get out, or are they being silent? Is it being talked about in Virginia? Is this something that is
not enough?
Not enough. Okay.
And I think it's all the above. Why are they doing this, or what's? I think it's all the above. They're worried about their own job. They're worried about their own party. They're worried about this guy. They're worried about somebody they disagree with getting into office. They're worried that an R. So let me go on to one more thing, because I don't know if it gets worse, but there's even more.
Right.
At the very end of this article, meanwhile, the controversy is threatening to grow. The Virginia Scope, which is a publication in Virginia, the Virginia Scope reported Monday that Coyner recalled a 2020 phone call with Jones in which he said if a few police officers died, then maybe they would stop killing people. Jones denied making the comment, according to the outlet, but Virginia Democrats are largely standing with Jones for now. A little bit of a he said, she said, whatever, but considering what the texts say and considering what this guy felt comfortable saying to this other person.
That my thought was that this is what he's saying to another person. How much deeper does this go within him?
Yeah, right.
What else is he? What's in the iceberg below the surface that he's not putting out there?
Yeah, and if he's comfortable with the idea of kids dying, then I have no problem believing that he said exactly this about police officers. So anyway, thanks a lot, Virginia. You guys have a huge job to do. Now, I got to tell you, every state's got a wacko running for office, so it's not just Virginia's fault, but it could be Virginia that has the solution, and that's at the ballot box. So, Virginia, do what needs to get done. Get this guy out of public office and make sure he is nowhere near power ever, 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 ever again. So, there you go. More political violence from the left. Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media. And check out our website at gunownersradio.com.